Alright guys, we're here today with a rather unique trip report right here. So one of my subscribers and his dad have actually reached out to me to read out both of their 5-MeO DMT experiences. They both shared the experience together. And I'm going to start off by reading the son's first and then his dad's, because he advised me that's the best way to go through it. So without further ado, let's get stuck in, and I think you're in for a big treat with this one. Thanks to an unexpected change in schedule, my father and I were able to attend an evening of 5-MeO DMT with our same three beloved facilitators. This took place Saturday, January 29th, 2022, with the full glory of the sun setting on the Pacific. I would go first this time, and we agreed on a meditative low dose followed by a full breakthrough. I settled on a meditation cushion, and within seconds of drawing in the vapour, I felt the world fall away. 25 milligrams of dried venom at 15% 5-MeO DMT by weight puts this at 3 to 4 milligram dose, which is on the lighter side. It took me immediately into a state of deep meditative relaxation. There was no psychedelia, no ego obliteration, just stillness and space. A sense of everything being at rest, at peace, and just right. This experience was deeply nourishing, and it passed with the same fleeting ease which characterised its arrival. As thoughts and awareness of my surroundings gradually returned, I did a bit of stretching and deep breathing, which was truly delicious. Earlier in the day I had injured my back, which also made it hard to breathe, and this was the best I had felt physically all day. I opened my eyes and saw that the sun had sunk fully below the horizon, leaving the dreamlike glow of dusk over a now dark sea. Clothed now in delicate music and candlelight, the smell of toad venom and fragrant herbs, the room was pregnant with latent mystical power. Dr. Jeremy approached with a grin, radiating warmth and encouragement. He whispered, "Hey bud, how are you? Great. Still want a full breakthrough dose? Great. 111? 111? The meaning didn't quite register. 111 milligrams. That's what came through when I was weighing the dose. How does that sound?" Smiling, a sort of reassuring excitement danced in his eyes. "Yes, let's do it." Some part of my mind registered that this is a large dose, about twice what I had on my first session back in September. Great, it's going to be beautiful. I stood up and we made the final preparations. Aromatic cleansing water was put in my hands, with which I anointed my head, neck and chest. I was given the pipe to hold close to my heart, and I spent a few moments connecting with my body and breath. The prayer was held up before me, and I began to read, the words echoing off of the simple white page. I accept that the joy I have longed for is already in my life. I accept that the love for which I have prayed is already in my life. The doctor administered the dose while Luna and Alicia stood behind me, waiting to become my wings. My breath felt free and easy. Maybe because it wasn't my first time. Maybe because the small dose earlier had soothed my nerves. The whole dose was brought in smooth, arms stretched towards the heavens. It was a huge hit, and the impression was of having just inhaled some kind of thick electric medicinal fluid. It captured the full attention of all of my senses. Good. Now hold. Gentle hands on me, and whispers. How can I possibly describe this? Everything I have ever been, felt, thought, done, sensed, or believed exploded. I exploded. The pieces I exploded into exploded. Then those pieces exploded, and then those pieces exploded. wave after explosive wave mounting on top of each other in constructive collapse, each iteration getting tighter, faster, higher, brighter and louder. The refresh rate of my awareness was climbing at an impossible rate, buzzing and blooming, rolling and ringing. Jesus, I thought. What little of my mind was left stood before a tidal wave. The absolute. Jesus, the thought rang out again. I'm not especially Christian. This is just what one thinks in such a state of absolute astonishment. Jeremy, the name of my father, my creator. It is to me to be the name pattern existence itself. Jeremy, Jeremy, it is a key, or it is a doorway. Regardless, something had opened. A soft wind blows. It is done. Holy fucking shit. This is it. Right now. It's over. Here it is, right now. The entire drama of creation lay naked with an unbound, neutral awareness. Creation is the child of freedom. No distinction between thought, emotion, sensations, memory, anything. It is all one. There is the sense of massive, unfathomable relief and gratitude. This is it, and it is perfect. Perfect and complete. Awareness itself seemed to have reached some kind of plot twist at the climax of being. Self-awareness chased its tail through the eye of the storm, through the centre of the torus, howling wild with delight all the way. The echo played out, dissipated. Peace. That is all. I'm swaddled in love, the child of freedom. Not yet fully aware of personhood, my faculties return just enough to allow linear, coherent thought to dance into being. I whispered to myself, here it is, the jewelled lotus at the heart of creation. It was never born, it will never die. Infinite peace in the eternal moment. Nothing to do, and no one to do it. Perfection. The feeling of safety, comfort and coziness, free of a single blemish, lay evenly distributed throughout my entire being. Just so. I reached out my hand to my dad laying next to me, seeking his hand in victory and camaraderie, forgetting that he too is immersed in the most potent psychedelic experience known to man. He's very deep in the medicine, Luna tells me. I chuckled and hugged myself under the blanket. All of this must have taken place very quickly, because I can hear my father next to me speaking in tongues. This tends to happen early on, during the come-up. How long was I adrift in that sea of raw totality? Out of the light language comes some English, and I know he knows. Okay, I get it, okay. Jesus Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm overwhelmed with joy, and it pours out of me like syrup as I echoed the words back under my breath. He settled down after only a moment, and I enjoyed 10 or 15 minutes simply being. No particular thoughts or feelings, just presence. At some point Dr. Jeremy came to check on me, and I affirmed that yes, it was beautiful, and that yes, I would like a third dose. Still laying comfortably, I inhaled the vapour, noting the now familiar taste and the crackling sound it made when heat was applied. This brought home the total transcendence of the supposed sacred and mundane duality. I savoured the feeling of my own gentle laughter and wriggled around, delighted at the state of intrinsic awareness which is the true ground of being. I couldn't help but smile as soft tears rolled back over my cheeks. This came on just as swiftly as it departed though, much like the first meditative dose. I settled in, content to rest forever until my father came back around. I heard him stirring and speaking. "I'm so happy," it said through him. Not as a statement of experience, but as an expression of its essence. That happiness is simply what we are once all fear is gone. "I'm so happy," we continued. "I'm so happy. I'm so happy." I became aware that he was sobbing. This time I'm going to bring it back. But they're never going to believe me. They're never going to believe me. They're never going to believe me. We turned to face each other, and our love for one another spilled out into the room. We marvelled and chatted, as one does after this sort of thing. Dr. Jeremy, sitting on the floor next to us, spoke up. "That was so beautiful. Thank you both." And turning to me, he said, "It was nice to hear you vocalising more. Your dad was there last time, but you really brought it tonight." "What do you mean?" Surely he couldn't have meant the bit of whispering I did to myself. I was then informed that immediately after taking the second dose of 111 milligrams, I sat bolt upright and shouted with the full force of my being, "Jesus! Jesus! Jeremy! 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 We got burgers from In-N-Out. Postscript. Every night I return to that place in my dreams. Deep integration and blessed beautiful work are done in sleep, and I am thankful for the grace. Though I cannot say everyone has to do this, the value of such an experience cannot be overstated. I am interested only in embodying the truth of being, with patience, love, and compassion. Thank you. Right, well, I hope you enjoyed that. That was an absolutely impeccable description of the 5-MeO DMT experience, with more of an emotional aspect to it than a lot of the other reports that we see. So now we're moving on to the next report, which is actually by his dad, so buckle yourselves up for this one. Saturday, January 29th. My son and I smoked 5-MeO DMT in the form of toad venom. I'm a 60-year-old man living in Los Angeles, in good health without significant disease. I'm taking only thyroid hormone replacement, and I'm not using any other herbs or supplements. I have a history of what would probably be called recreational psychedelic use, stretching back to 17 years of age when I began experimenting with various substances including psilocybin, LSD, and mescaline. Usually these were taken in a party setting in conjunction with alcohol, and later, often along with cocaine and methamphetamine. And although managing to shine through with some profound existential glow, they were not employed with the intent of formal spiritual quest, other than that of absolute freedom. I'm an alcoholic and have been sober since 1992. This includes all other drug and psychedelic compounds as well. Well, until recently. My son, Mason, with whom I share a very deep connection, had also been sitting with various psychedelics since he was 16. While I was busy with work and raising his younger brothers and sisters, he was finding his way along the esoteric pathways of Stoicism, Hermeticism, and the myriad ancient and resurgent wisdom traditions loosely aligned with non-duality. By this point I had been a rational material atheist for the majority of my life, having grown disaffected and suspicious of the edicts, expectations, and explanations offered during my Catholic upbringing. This would change in a 10-minute span, 3 years ago, Mason informed me he was thinking about extracting and working with N,N-dimethyltryptamine, or DMT. He asked me what I thought of it, and, of course, I supported him. He perfected the extraction on his own, engaged with the substance, and would frequently report back with the wild details of his travels. I asked him if he thought that I might benefit, and he felt that I would. Despite some initial late-life trepidation, my experience was transformative. In 10 minutes I was shown there is a transcendent other, layers of etheric energy beings both within and without us, up through to the source of all creation, which is not separate from us. I was shown how life was a gift we were giving ourselves, that it is a game written in light, and that there is nothing to worry about. Life and death are just part of the dream, and because everything unfolds in the service of love. We shared plant medicines both together and separately, until, 3 months ago, the opportunity came to sit with a team offering 5-MeO DMT of the Incilius alvarius variety. Our experience together was deeply profound and reaffirmed the root truth of all mystical teachings, that we were all manifestations of the one loving intelligence, and that despite our seeming struggles, we are always safe, always peaceful, eternal. Details of this encounter can be found in my son's eloquent and moving trip report entitled The Toad, 5-MeO DMT Trip Report. After a 3-month period of integration, we were called to sit with the medicine once again. I set an intention for the service. Surrender. My first encounter had been quite gentle, having no memory of the rapid come-up until I was revealed as pure loving presence. This time I hoped to be able to face the unnameable such that I might lose myself more consciously into it. In a short period of time, we found ourselves back in the arms of our loving team. Jeremy, which also happens to be my name, Alicia, and Luna. The ceremony was, again, to be held at Luna's warm and inviting home, which sits in natural organic resonance on the cliffs over the ocean. "What do you think about doing a meditation dose to begin with?" Jeremy asked both Luna, Mason and I together. I am always nervous prior to both plant and toad medicine ceremonies, and this seemed like a good way to relax into the experience. "Just a little handshake to focus on the breathing and centre the heart," Jeremy said. "You'll be aware throughout. Some people don't feel the need to go further in afterwards, so we will check on with you after a few minutes." The sun had just set. The 2 great west-facing windows stare like eyes out over the steely ocean. Orange, red and yellow stained glass shards of light dancing on the surface, out into the infinite. My son and I were cleansed with sage and Florida water. We were seated cross-legged in meditation position, side by side on soft floor mats, adorned with the visage of Ganesha. As I had been served first previously, Mason would begin tonight. He was offered and received the small dose via the Eclipse vaporizer in 1 inhalation, without disturbance in his peace or posture. I was offered the medicine and received it in kind. Immediately my inner and outer world became a cathedral of shadowed silver lattice work. My heart quickened and I focused on my breathing. There was the knowing of a great power just beyond my senses, ancient, aware. I fought the urge to fall backward into it, wanting to save my surrender for the breakthrough dose. Rather than being a gentle handshake, my ego was on high alert, sensing its perilous position. I considered not continuing any further, but soon as I was aware of my son, standing, folded hands holding the medicine close to his heart and reading the prayer from the card before him, We were both to take the medicine standing and to fall back into the arms of our guides as the substance took hold. Music came up, soft and supportive. First, 2 deep practice breaths, and then 1 long, gentle inhale, deep into the diaphragm, arms being assisted out and up over his head, and then falling back into the cradle of life. There was some initial hushed busying around him, pillows to support, arms into surrender pose. The silence was then broken by a scream. "Jesus!" Mason yelled in utter astonishment. The sound was of a man facing the unthinkable. "Jesus!" He sat up, bending at the waist and met by the tender silent care of our attendants. And then, "Jeremy!" Mason shouted. I froze, stunned by the invocation of the name, both mine and that of our shaman. 2 more times again. "Jeremy! Jeremy!" By this point I am sobbing softly to myself, partly because my son is calling me and I will claw through heaven and earth to find him. Mostly though, I am crying because I know. He is staring at the face of God. "Jay!" Victory. "Jay!" Victory. I look at Luna worriedly, but she places her hand on her heart and shakes her head. "No, just keep meditating," offers Alicia in a whisper. In a moment he is at peace, remembering who he is. Now is my turn. I stand up, a little shaken. "I'm anxious," I whisper to Alicia. "It's normal," she smiles. They are moving me forward with steady reassurance. Hold the medicine between your palms and read this aloud. "Will this be like before?" I ask Jeremy. "Oh yeah," he reassures. "It will be beautiful." Alicia will serve, Jeremy will catch. Hold the medicine close to your heart. I read the prayer out loud. I accept that the joy that I have longed for is already in my life. I accepted the love for which I have prayed is already within me. The first 2 practice breaths, then 1 long, slow, deep inhalation. More, a little more, good. Now hold. The features of the room became defined by the same silver lattice energy. And then, pop. Arms now outstretched like bird wings, I fall back into oblivion. I am aware of being safely caught, lowered, and positioned onto the ground. And then it comes. Not in images so much, but as an energetic presence bearing down fast. I begin to feel my body, my sense of self, unravelling. Suddenly it is upon me. Unimaginable beauty, unfathomable complexity, unbearable power and infinite expanse, roiling like the sun, shape-shifting into impossible dimensionality. It is light beyond seeing, presence beyond boundary. It is taking me apart 1 atom at a time, and it is demanding my surrender. There is an emotion different from fear, an existential dread. There is no previous similar experience with which to measure and compare. I have been deposited directly into the heart of the unmanifest, preconditional, thermonuclear everything generator, an unrelenting gristmill of reality. And I am resisting it. It is like holding back an exploding star, though soon there will be not enough left of me to distinguish. In a heartbeat there is a complete obliteration of self and annihilation of all subject-object relationships. I scream at the top of my lungs, a scream of resignation, an offering of energy. The final exhalation, exaltation, the acceptance of death. I am gone. In my place is a unification with, and as, all of the unbridled, roaring, infinite power of unmanifest being. With the collapse of space and time comes omnipotence, omnipresence, omniscience, immediate understanding of everything that has ever been, and of why, which is, of course, the expression of unconditional love. But not love as a desire, not love as a stroll with a lover through a Parisian garden, and not even as the love between mother and child, but love as a locomotive tearing up the tracks of conceptualization and judgment. Love as recognition and celebration of the glory of its own unfathomable and miraculous being. A power that calls itself into manifestation, expressed as infinite distinctions, dancing through relationships. Impossible to experience as a me or a you, yet present in contracted form as all things. Each particle of perfection plotting its path home. Sometimes this looks like suffering. Other times this looks like bliss. Each distinction giving birth to and informing its opposite until they meet, surrendering their separateness, collapsing, liberated in the heart. Just as we must inevitably surrender our distinctions, our opposing qualities, life and death. This is a gift from you to you. A game of losing and finding, sleeping and waking, forgetting and remembering. What is asked is the surrender of everything. What you get in return is yourself. At last, I've fully surrendered. I became it. Completely free. I'm so happy, it said through me. Not as a statement of experience, but as an expression of its essence. That happiness is simply what we are once all fear has subsided. I'm so happy, we continued. I'm so happy. So happy. I became aware that I was sobbing. Fighting the urge to get up, now I allowed myself the gift of finger-painting with my mind the details of this very reality. I looked into and became my wife. I saw her goodness, beauty and strength. I saw how we had created each other and felt her love for me as real and pure, and I began to weep again. I started moving in and out of all of the people I have known, friends, family, and even public figures like Jesus, Hitler and such, to know myself as them, to demystify and demonstrify them in shared humanness and divinity. As the medicine lay me back gently, into my body, into my life, I held on to the deep knowing that there is nothing and has never been anything but the one self, which manifests as this dream of doing and being, a living that can never be threatened. Always both a lover and its beloved, dancing together alone. There is no power but you, came the silent wisdom. There is no power but you, I yelled, and 2 more times. There is no power but you. There is no power but you. The simple truth of it all was undeniable. This time I'm going to bring it back, I said. But they're never going to believe me. They're never going to believe me. They're never going to believe me. Now back in my body, I considered my predicament. All of manifest reality, from God to God particle telescoping up and down, nested and interpenetrating through me, as me. I thought about the everyday worries that I had dragged with me into this space. I surrender, I whispered out loud, and was released.